12 places in America where moving there could be the worst decision of your life. We're not talking about places that are just inconvenient or boring. We are talking about genuine danger, economic disaster, and quality of life so bad it could derail your future for years. I've analyzed the latest crime data, economic reports, census information, and talked to people who actually live in these places. And what I found is alarming. These aren't opinions. These are facts. Hard data showing catastrophic crime rates, economic collapse, infrastructure failure, and living conditions that should be unacceptable in the wealthiest nation on earth. So before you consider moving to any of these places for a cheap house or a job offer, watch this entire video. Because what you don't know could cost you everything. Here are the 12 places in the US you should never move to in 2026. What makes a place unlivable? Before we count down the list, let's establish what we are measuring. A place makes this list if it has one or more of these critical failures. Crime rate so high that your personal safety is genuinely at risk every single day. We are talking murder rates 5 to 10 times the national average, where violence isn't an exception, it's the norm. Economic collapse so severe there are no jobs, no opportunities, and no future. Places where the industries that built them are dead and nothing has replaced them. Infrastructure failure where basic services like clean water, electricity, or roads are unreliable or dangerous. When you can't trust what comes out of your tap, that's a failed city. Population exodus so extreme that the tax base has collapsed and the city can't afford to provide basic services. When everyone with options leaves, that tells you everything. Quality of life so poor that every aspect of daily living, from schools to healthcare to simply feeling safe, is compromised. These aren't struggling towns trying to improve. These are places in active decline or complete failure. And the data proves it. Some of these places have been on decline for decades. Others have collapsed more recently. But all of them share one thing. You should avoid them unless you have absolutely no other choice. Let's start with number 12 and count down to the place you should avoid at all costs. At number 12, Stockton, California. Stockton was ground zero for the foreclosure crisis, filed for bankruptcy in 2012, and while it's technically emerged, the problems remain severe. Stockton has one of the highest violent crime rates in California. We are talking about robberies, assaults, and shootings that make large parts of the city genuinely dangerous. The violent crime rate is over twice the California average. The city has struggled with gang violence for decades. Certain neighborhoods are essentially controlled by gangs, with regular shootings and drug activity that police can't contain. Despite being in California, the median household income is only $58,000, well below the state average. Yet home prices have climbed back to $450,000 plus, creating an impossible affordability crisis. The poverty rate is 21%. Economic opportunities are limited. Most jobs are low-wage service work or warehouse positions that don't pay enough to afford the cost of living. The school district is underperforming. Test scores are below state averages, and resources are inadequate compared to other California cities. Stockton sits in California's Central Valley, which means brutal summer heat, regularly over 100 degrees Fahrenheit for weeks, and some of the worst air quality in America. One former resident shared, "Moved to Stockton because we couldn't afford the Bay Area. Within a year, our house was broken into twice, we heard gunshots regularly, and I was commuting 2 hours each way for work. We sold at a loss and left. Not worth it." If you're being priced out of other California areas, don't settle for Stockton. Look to other states entirely where you'll get more safety and opportunity for your money. At number 11, Mobile, Alabama. Mobile sits on the Gulf Coast, and while it has southern charm and history, the reality is increasingly troubling. Mobile is one of the most hurricane-prone cities in America. Since 2000, it's been hit by multiple major hurricanes including Katrina, Ivan, and Sally, causing billions in damage. Homeowners insurance has skyrocketed, often 3 to 4 times the national average, and that's if you can even get coverage. Many major insurers have pulled out of the Gulf Coast entirely due to climate risk. The violent crime rate is nearly triple the national average. Mobile consistently ranks in the top 20 most dangerous cities in the US. The poverty rate is 22%. The median household income is just $47,000. Economic opportunities are limited, with most jobs in low-wage tourism and service sectors. The job market is stagnant. There's no major industry driving growth. Young professionals leave for Birmingham, Nashville, or Atlanta where opportunities actually exist. The school system is underperforming. Test scores are below Alabama state averages, and Alabama itself ranks near the bottom nationally. Climate change is making coastal living increasingly risky. Sea level rise, more intense storms, and flooding are becoming existential threats. One resident posted, "Lived in Mobile for 5 years. My home flooded twice from hurricanes. Insurance dropped me after the second flood. Car was broken into 3 times. Finally moved to Tennessee. Lower costs, no hurricanes, way less crime." Mobile combines natural disaster risk with high crime and limited opportunity. That's a terrible combination that will only get worse with climate change. At number 10, Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson is Mississippi's capital city, and it's experiencing a catastrophic infrastructure crisis that shows no signs of resolution. Jackson's water system has completely failed multiple times in recent years, leaving 150,000 residents without safe drinking water. Boil water notices have lasted for months. This is a state capital in America with third world infrastructure. The problem requires an estimated $2 billion to fix completely. The city doesn't have that money. The state has been slow to help. Residents are trapped. Beyond water, Jackson has one of the highest murder rates in America. The city routinely ranks in the top 10 most dangerous cities, with violent crime rates far exceeding the national average. The poverty rate is 25%. The median household income is just $43,000, well below the national average of $75,000. Jackson has lost over 15% of its population in the last 2 decades. People are leaving, tax revenue is falling, and the death spiral continues. The school system is struggling. Jackson Public Schools consistently underperform state averages and face chronic funding challenges. Job opportunities are limited. Most employment is government work or low-wage service jobs. Career growth is minimal. One former resident said, "I moved to Jackson for a job. The water crisis was constant stress. Never knowing if you could safely drink tap water, shower, or cook. It's insane for a state capital. Left after 2 years." When you can't trust your water supply, that's a fundamental failure. Jackson shouldn't be livable until this is fixed, but people are trapped there by poverty and lack of options. At number 9, Bakersfield, California. Bakersfield consistently ranks in the top 5 worst cities for air pollution in America, and that's just the beginning of its problems. The air quality is genuinely hazardous. The combination of oil refineries, agriculture, and being trapped in a valley creates toxic smog that causes respiratory problems, asthma, and long-term health issues. If you have any breathing problems, Bakersfield could literally shorten your life. Despite being in California, Bakersfield doesn't offer California salaries. The median household income is $70,000, but home prices have still climbed to over $350,000. You're paying California prices without California opportunities. The crime rate is significantly higher than California's average. Property crime and violent crime are both elevated. Many neighborhoods are genuinely unsafe. The summer heat is brutal, regularly exceeding 100 degrees Fahrenheit for weeks or months. Combined with the air pollution, being outdoors in summer is often hazardous. The city sprawls endlessly with minimal public transportation. You're stuck in a car, breathing polluted air, sitting in traffic. Cultural amenities, entertainment, and quality of life factors are minimal compared to other California cities. Bakersfield offers little beyond cheap housing, which isn't even that cheap anymore. The job market is dominated by oil, agriculture, and service work. If you're not in those industries, opportunities are limited. One former resident said, "Bakersfield is where Californians go when they can't afford anywhere else in California. But you're still paying too much for terrible air, limited jobs, and nothing to do. Move to Nevada and got better everything for less money." If you want California, save up and move to a better part of the state. If you can't afford California, move to another state. Bakersfield is the worst of both worlds. At number 8, Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis has become one of the most dangerous major cities in America, and the statistics are genuinely alarming. Memphis recorded over 300 murders in 2023 in a city of about 630,000 people. That's a murder rate of approximately 48 per 100,000 residents, nearly 10 times the national average. The city rivals some of the most dangerous places on Earth. Property crime is equally severe. Car thefts are epidemic. Memphis is the car theft capital of America. Carjackings happen in broad daylight. Your vehicle will be stolen or broken into. It's a matter of when, not if. Violent crime isn't limited to bad neighborhoods. It happens across the city, including in areas considered safe. Random violence, robbery, and assault are daily occurrences. The poverty rate is 24%. Large sections of Memphis are economically depressed with failing schools and limited opportunities. The school system is troubled. Memphis Shelby County schools consistently underperform state averages. If you have kids, educational options are limited unless you can afford private school. The city has some revitalization in certain areas, but the crime problem overshadows everything. You can't enjoy restaurants or culture if you're worried about being robbed or carjacked. One transplant said, "Moved to Memphis for work in 2022. Within 6 months, my car was stolen, my apartment building had 2 shootings, and I was actively job hunting elsewhere." Memphis has great barbecue and music history, but living there means accepting danger daily. No amount of cheap housing or cultural appeal is worth living somewhere that's dangerous. Memphis needs radical changes before it's a viable place to live. At number 7, San Bernardino, California. San Bernardino filed for bankruptcy in 2012, officially exited in 2017, but remains deeply troubled. San Bernardino has one of the highest violent crime rates in California. Gang activity, drug problems, and property crime create an atmosphere of constant danger. Crime rates are triple the California average. The city regularly appears on most dangerous cities lists. Certain neighborhoods are genuinely hazardous, and even better areas have significant crime problems. The poverty rate is 28%. Unemployment consistently runs higher than state and national averages. Economic opportunities are extremely limited. Most residents commute over an hour to Los Angeles or Orange County for work. You're paying Southern California housing prices to live in a high-crime city and commute hours daily. The median household income is just $50,000, yet home prices have climbed to $400,000 plus. The math doesn't work for most people. The school system is underfunded and underperforming. Test scores are among the lowest in California. If education matters, San Bernardino fails. The city offers nothing that justifies its problems. It's not cheaper than other states. It has California's cost without California's opportunity or quality of life. One former resident wrote, "San Bernardino combines the worst of California: high costs, traffic, taxes, with none of the benefits. High crime, terrible schools, no opportunities. We moved to Arizona and our entire quality of life improved immediately." If you're looking at San Bernardino because you can't afford other parts of Southern California, seriously consider other states. You'll get more for your money and a better life. At number 6, Camden, New Jersey. Camden is consistently ranked as one of the most dangerous cities in America, and the statistics justify that reputation. The violent crime rate is over 5 times the national average. Murder, aggravated assault, robbery. Camden has catastrophic levels of all of them. Living there means accepting genuine danger. The poverty rate is 37%, over 1/3 of residents. The median household income is just $29,000. Camden is one of the poorest cities in America. Camden has lost 40% of its population since 1950. Those who remain are largely trapped by poverty and inability to leave. The city was so broke it dissolved its police department in 2013 and created a county force. Basic city services are inadequate. The school system is one of the worst in New Jersey, which has generally good schools statewide. Camden schools consistently underperform with low graduation rates and test scores. Entire blocks are abandoned. Buildings are burned out or collapsed. The city looks like a disaster zone in many areas. Camden sits across the river from Philadelphia, which offers infinitely better opportunities, safety, and quality of life. The contrast couldn't be starker. One person said, "Camden is one of the saddest, most failed cities in America. Unless you have absolutely no other choice, there's no reason to live there. The danger is real, the poverty is crushing, and the future is bleak." Camden represents urban failure so complete that most of American society has written it off. That's not somewhere to build a life. At number 5, Gary, Indiana. Gary is experiencing urban decay so severe it looks like a city that was bombed and abandoned. Gary has lost 60% of its population since 1960. Over 13,000 structures, roughly 1 in 5 buildings, sit abandoned and rotting. Entire neighborhoods are ghost towns. The crime rate is catastrophic. Gary routinely ranks in the top 10 most dangerous cities in America. Violent crime is over 3 times the national average. The economic base, steel production, is essentially dead. U.S. Steel still operates but employs a fraction of historical levels. There are no jobs and no economic future. The poverty rate is 33%. The median household income is just $35,000. 1/3 of residents live in poverty. The school system is failing. Gary community schools have been taken over by the state multiple times. Educational outcomes are terrible. Infrastructure is crumbling. The city can barely afford police, fire, or basic services. Streets are in terrible condition. Many areas lack functioning streetlights. Many properties have been stripped of copper wiring, plumbing, and anything valuable. Arson is common. Squatters occupy abandoned buildings. Environmental contamination from decades of steel production is widespread. Soil contamination, air quality issues, and industrial waste are serious concerns. One person who considered moving there said, "Looked at Gary because houses were incredibly cheap. When I visited, I was shocked. It looks post-apocalyptic. Entire blocks empty. Visible danger everywhere. Realize no amount of cheap housing is worth that." Gary represents one of America's most catastrophic urban failures. Unless massive changes happen, it will continue declining. Don't be there when it does. At number 4, Flint, Michigan. Flint became internationally infamous for its water crisis, and while headlines have faded, the problems haven't. Starting in 2014, Flint's water was contaminated with lead, poisoning thousands of residents, including children who now have permanent developmental damage. While officials claim water is safe now, trust is destroyed and concerns remain. Lead pipes are still being replaced, years behind schedule. The infrastructure that caused the crisis is still largely in place. Beyond water, Flint has lost over half its population since 1960. The economic base, General Motors, has drastically downsized. There are virtually no good jobs. The poverty rate is 38%, one of the highest in America. The median household income is just $31,000. The violent crime rate is over double the national average. Property crime is rampant. Large sections of Flint are genuinely dangerous. The school system is struggling. Educational outcomes are poor, and resources are inadequate. Properties that once sold for $80,000 now sell for $15,000 or less. But even at those prices, who wants to live in a city that poisoned its own residents? One former resident shared, "I wanted to stay and help rebuild Flint. But after my child tested positive for elevated lead levels, we had to leave." No parent should face that choice. Flint failed its people in the worst way. Flint represents a government failure so severe it endangered children. That breach of trust can never be fully repaired. The city has a long road ahead. At number 3, Detroit, Michigan. Yes, downtown Detroit is experiencing some revival. But Detroit is a huge city, and the vast majority remains deeply troubled. Detroit lost 60% of its population. Over 1 million people left. Entire neighborhoods are abandoned. The city has over 70,000 vacant structures. Detroit went through the largest municipal bankruptcy in U.S. history. While it's emerged, the infrastructure and service deficits remain. In the worst neighborhoods, crime is severe. With no residents and limited police presence, these areas are targets for criminal activity. Many cheap properties come with back taxes exceeding their value. People buy $1,000 houses and discover they owe $10,000 in liens and back taxes. Property taxes remain high even as values have collapsed. You can own a $10,000 house and pay $3,000 annually in taxes. The math doesn't work. Large sections of Detroit have failed infrastructure. Water service is unreliable. Streetlights don't work. Roads are destroyed. The city has given up on these areas. The school system is one of the worst performing in Michigan. Detroit public schools consistently rank at the bottom statewide. One investor said, "Everyone talks about Detroit's comeback, but that comeback is maybe 5% of the city. The other 95% is still a disaster. Lost a fortune buying into the hype." Detroit's revival is real but extremely limited geographically. The vast majority of the city remains a cautionary tale of urban collapse. At number 2, East St. Louis, Illinois. East St. Louis is one of the most dangerous and economically collapsed cities in America. The city has lost over 60% of its population since 1950. Those who remain face extreme poverty and constant danger. East St. Louis consistently ranks as one of the most dangerous cities in America. The violent crime rate is over 10 times the national average. Murder, assault, and robbery are constant. The poverty rate is 43%, nearly half the population. The median household income is just $23,000. This is extreme economic depression. The city is essentially bankrupt. Basic services like garbage collection and street maintenance are severely limited. Police protection is inadequate. The school district is one of the worst performing in Illinois. Educational outcomes are catastrophic. Most students are not proficient in reading or math. Environmental contamination from industrial activity has left parts of the city toxic. Lead paint and soil contamination are widespread. Large sections look like abandoned war zones. Buildings are collapsing. Streets are impassable. The infrastructure has completely failed. East St. Louis sits across the river from St. Louis, Missouri, which itself is troubled. But East St. Louis is exponentially worse. One person said, "East St. Louis is what complete urban failure looks like. There's no reason anyone should live there unless they have absolutely no other choice. It's genuinely one of the most depressing places in America." East St. Louis represents a city that America has largely given up on. Without dramatic intervention, the decline will continue. And at number 1, Baltimore, Maryland. A major American city with catastrophic crime, extreme poverty, and neighborhoods in complete collapse. Baltimore has over 300 murders per year, a murder rate over 50 per 100,000 residents. That's 10 times the national average and makes Baltimore one of the most dangerous cities on earth. The homicide rate has been at crisis levels for years. Entire neighborhoods are controlled by drug operations. Violence is routine and police are overwhelmed. Property crime is equally severe. Car theft, burglary, and robbery are epidemic. Your car will be broken into or stolen. It's not a question of if, but when. Baltimore has lost 35% of its population since 1950. The people who can leave do leave. Those who remain often can't afford to escape. The city has over 15,000 vacant properties. Entire blocks are abandoned. In West Baltimore particularly, the decay is shocking. The poverty rate is 21%, but in the worst neighborhoods it exceeds 40%. Economic opportunity is severely limited outside a few gentrifying areas. The school system is troubled. Baltimore city schools consistently underperform. Many schools lack basic resources like heat or air conditioning. Properties in the worst areas sell for $1,000 to $10,000, but they're financial death traps. High taxes, no buyers, constant crime, and impossible to maintain. The tax burden is crushing. Maryland has some of the highest taxes in America, and Baltimore adds city taxes on top. You're paying premium prices for catastrophic services. One former resident said, "I loved Baltimore, the history, the neighborhoods, the character. But the crime destroyed any quality of life. After my car was stolen and my house broken into, I left. Baltimore is a tragedy because it has so much potential being completely wasted." Baltimore is America's biggest urban tragedy. It's a major city, close to Washington, D.C., with history and culture, and yet it's completely failing its residents. The crime has made large sections genuinely unlivable. Until Baltimore addresses its catastrophic violence problem, it will continue to decline. And no one should move there hoping it gets better. It's been getting worse for decades. So there you have it. 12 places in the US you should never move to in 2026. These aren't just struggling towns. These are places experiencing catastrophic failure in one or more critical areas: crime, economy, infrastructure, opportunity, or basic quality of life. The pattern is clear. When crime is out of control, economic opportunity is gone, and infrastructure is failing, no amount of cheap housing makes it worth it. Your personal safety matters. Your ability to earn a living matters. Your access to functioning infrastructure matters. Your children's education matters. These places fail on multiple fronts. Now, some people will say I'm being too harsh. That these places have good people trying to make things work. And that's absolutely true. There are good people in all these places doing their best. But good people trapped in failed systems can't fix systemic problems alone. These cities need massive intervention, billions in investment, complete governance reform, and decades of sustained effort. And while that's happening, If it happens, you don't need to sacrifice your life, your safety, or your future betting on a turnaround that might never come. If you live in one of these places, I genuinely hope things improve. If you have the means to leave, seriously consider it. Your quality of life matters. If you're considering moving to any of these places, please do extensive research first. Visit multiple times. Talk to actual residents. Look at crime statistics. Understand the economic reality. Don't just see a cheap house and assume it's an opportunity. There are hundreds of great places to live in America. Places with growing economies, safe neighborhoods, good schools, and bright futures. These 12 places are not among them. Make smart decisions about where you live. It's one of the most important choices you'll ever make. If you found this video valuable, smash that subscribe button. I analyze real data to help you make informed decisions about living in America. What city do you think should have made this list? Drop it in the comments. And if you live in one of these places, tell me your perspective. Am I right or am I missing something? Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay smart, and choose your location wisely.